the record button now. So we are recording.
Here we go.
So first question is, how many of you have actually built a community? I know, Megan, you said you had. Okay, awesome. Awesome. And then I was saying before with when we were at the last meeting, does everybody have a dev org available so that they can log in and start setting stuff up and play with it too?
Yes.
Now.
Excellent. All right. I am going to share my screen here. And I have logged into Salesforce in my developer org. Let me go back to the first tab, which is going to now be this one when I switch over to communities. All right. And so in the Salesforce setup, the place where you're actually going to create a community is underneath the all communities. You can either type in all communities, or you can go to setup, customize, communities, all communities.
Okay. So communities. Oh, oops.
There we go.
Community settings.
It's just go to the all communities.
Oh, we have to enable communities first, though, right?
Exactly. If you don't have
So
any
if you
communities
don't have it set up, yes, you may have to click the enable checkbox and then hit OK.
Okay. So do you
with a domain name?
Yeah. So let's walk through that. Megan, do you want to transfer over to either me or Ashley? Since
Yeah,
neither
for
of us
sure.
has a domain.
I will
Ashley.
switch over. Who wants to lead?
Ashley.
Yeah, I can.
Just click the screen share button at the bottom of the screen in the middle. Or share screen button. There you go. Awesome. So here's where you're going to set your domain name. Since we're all in sandboxes or dev orgs instead of production, we can make this whatever we want it to be. And so, like, for example, mine is called, it was my Summer 17 pre-release org, so it's called Summer 17. So yeah, anything you want to call it, and then you can just click there you go, and click save afterwards. And then it'll just take a minute for this to get set up. Watch little Astro be adorable. I love that they've switched over to using Astro for the new release icons, and that's what they're going to do going forward. I think that's super cool.
Oh, look at all this new stuff that showed up.
So is everyone on the all communities area?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is where you can create your community. Do you want to click the new community button, Ashley?
I can do that.
And so here's where we're going to have a couple of different options come up for what kind of community we want to create.
I was thinking.
And this is the list of templates that are included. There's the customer account portal template that came out with the last release. There's Partner Central. And if you scroll down, there's Napili and then the new Build Your Own org as well. To give you an overview of what each of these are. So the customer service, and then Visual Force and tabs, yeah. But we all don't want to use Visual Force, and Aloha is just the app launcher. Yeah. But yeah, so the primary template that you're going to use when creating a community is going to be that customer service Napili template. It has the most components. It has, built-in functionality already with chatter and cases, dashboards and reports, objects that are regularly seen in communities. If you want to scroll up a little bit. So the Partner Central template, this is very similar to the Napili template, except for the fact that, first of all, it does not contain the topics components. So if you plan on using topics heavily in your org, so which we'll get into in a little bit when we look at how the components work, then you don't want to pick Partner Central. You're not actually getting additional features. You're just getting a framework that's pre-set up for you, and then your actual template you pick determines the components available. So if you pick the customer service Napili, you get all of the components available, and it's a very generic setup. If you go check the Partner Central, you get a more customized look in the beginning, and you already have objects like leads and opportunities that a partner would use pre-added into that template. But you can do all those things using the customer service Napili template. Just because you're making a partner community doesn't mean you have to go with Partner Central.
Oh.
The customer account portal, So again, this is one where your components are going to be limited when selecting the customer account portal or partner central compared to the components you get in customer service. But you're able to do the customizations to Napili to get those items available to you. You'll notice that the actual layout of the customer account portal is slightly different with how they have that search bar to the right instead of being that big white thing in the middle.
Yeah.
You can do that with custom themes in communities so that you can make it have, I don't know if you guys ever used Winamp back in the day to play music, but you could always get those custom skins to make it look like your favorite band.
Yeah. Wow.
So custom themes. Custom themes are like your Winamp skins so that you can make your community look like whatever type of, look and feel you want it to have, while maintaining that same functionality and still being able to play the songs that you did before. So that's.
And are you sure you're not cheating about your age? Because if you know Winamp and know how to theme, you must be about 40.
Oh, dude,
I told you before that you.
I loved my Hanson skin on my Winamp. I am not going to lie. I thought it was fabulous. And I see Megan sitting there just like, I cannot believe she's talking about Hanson. But
okay, not sure if I gotta stay on this call after
I
that.
was like, best way to make my mix CDs.
right? Oh my gosh, that with my Napster account where it only took me 40 minutes to download a song. Like in a week I'd have an album. Like it was gonna happen as long as my mom stopped picking up the phone. But so going back to our community, what we're going to select this time is we're going to select the Napili template. So if you all want to select that for your community, and then here's where it goes over. If you scroll down, it just tells you a little bit about the Napili template. It's for customization. You get your layouts, you can do custom themes, and you can collaborate. So just press the Get Started button here. And then, there you go. One more time. Awesome.
I was like, is it thinking or did I not click it?
Both.
Yes. So here's where we're going to name our community. If this was an actual customer community, you may want to name it customer community. If it's, community for a specific set of customers, you may want to name it after that. It's a partner community. I usually name mine after the template I'm using in my dev org, so I know which one it is that I made the example for. But you can name it anything you want. Then I highly recommend the next option is to add the URL. So this is what comes after the slash after the whole like blah, 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 your community's name.salesforce.com/s/. And this is what'll show up. If you're going to have multiple communities in your org, even if there's a possibility, make sure to add something here. Because if you don't add it now and you have to add it later, those links don't automatically update. So make sure you pick it's a bit of a pain. If you're going to add the end, if you plan on adding they call it the prefix, even though it's at the end. If you plan on adding a prefix to the end of your domain, make sure to do that now. And call it whatever you want. And then we'll press the create button after that.
Megan, can you go over that again? Are
Sure.
you saying take your URL and paste it into the name field?
So here, I'm actually going to steal Presenter here, and I'm going to give you an example on my screen. So here are my different community names that I have. I have my Snaily community. I have Build Your Own. I have the Customer Account Portal, and then I have Partner Central. And then the URL part, this is what's going to come after the slash here. So I added Snaily to my Snaily community, custom to Build Your Own, customer account to the customer account portal, and then partners to the Partner Central. One thing to know is you can't be adding, you can't add like a dash in here. So you have to use just letters when you do what comes at the end of your URL.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So in the URL optional box,
Yep.
you put the name of your community.
So you can put whatever you want there. That's really what it is. It's what I would name it if it was a customer community I was building. I would do customers. If it was a partner community I was doing and it was a real partner community, I would do partners. Just something to make it significant of which community this is for the URL. Because if you're going to have a customer community and a partner community, you want them to see different things. And so it's better to have it at the end of both than rather to have one blank and have the other one have the suffix. I just think it's cleaner. It's a good naming convention for your org.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Daniel, what are your thoughts?
It's just fine. Nobody will see the URL later because you typically put a CNAME on that and mask it so that the customers and partners actually won't see the URL that you choose here. So the best thing is have a clear naming convention and be consistent with that.
Yeah.
So absolutely fine with what you're saying.
Awesome. So yeah, and I mean, like Daniel was saying, if you decide that you're going to have a custom domain, so very similar to how, you have success, you have the Salesforce success community, the Salesforce partner community, and the Salesforce website. Those are all built on Salesforce.com. And then they create a record within that domain admin console so that they can take this URL here that they created that may be, completely nonsensical, and then have it show up though to their customers as success.salesforce.com. So that's how the custom domains make things kind of pretty. Really, I mean, the only time you see the end is when you are an internal user, or if you for some reason don't add a custom domain. But that would be weird because then you'd have .force.com in your URL.
Yeah.
And that'd be pretty weird to just show to your customers. Just in general.
As long as your company can,
yeah.
If your company is named in Force or something like that.
Right. I mean, that could work.
You didn't notice that someone booked dreamforce.my.salesforce.com.
Oh, really?
I really misspelled it lately and came
Nice.
to a login page. So,
awesome. That's pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm surprised Salesforce hasn't gotten on that yet.
It's probably Salesforce. I didn't try to reset my user there.
Well, that too. Yeah, it probably is them. I didn't think about that. I was hoping it was somebody else that bought it. Like when whoever it was ended up with the Dallas Cowboys.com URL. Like Dallas Cowboys let their domain expire.
Oh, no.
Really?
Yeah, they really did. Hilarious. Like if you're that big of a company, you think you wouldn't let your domain expire.
Marketing fail.
Right?
Right.
So here we are. Once you create that community, you're going to be taken to the community workspace screen. And this only came out this year, and it's super, super handy. Just to give you a walkthrough of what's on here. So your first square, this is your builder. This is going to take you to the community builder where you're actually going to build the community and drag and drop your components onto the page. Moderation is going to take you to the area within this community workspace where you can check on flagged posts, where you can see, users that are frozen. You can check out, you can create a list of keywords that are banned, where you can set the settings for, whether or not to allow people to post, if they have a banned keyword, or if it needs to just have approval first, or if it's going to be blocked altogether. This third section is your content targeting. This is where all your topic stuff happens. And think of topics as hashtags. This is the perfect symbol for it. Your topic is the hashtag that you add to your post. So when you're in the success community, at the end of the post, you have that section where you can start adding your hashtags to it, or where they automatically appear if you put a hashtag in the post. Those are topics. In addition, this is where you're going to be able to relate data categories that you assign to knowledge articles to a specific topic. Those data categories aren't visible in the community. So by assigning them to a topic and having them auto tag those knowledge articles, you're going to save yourself a ton of work.
And what's the difference between a topic and a category?
So a data category is only visible internally, and it's used on knowledge articles to determine visibility as well as to categorize them. Data categories are not available in communities. So it's one of those things where they really want people to use topics. Data categories are kind of weird because they only apply to knowledge, but topics apply to everything in a community. So it's just going to be a way for you to translate that functionality that's only inside Salesforce and only on one object into something that's available to all objects, so that knowledge, the knowledge object and knowledge records can actually fit in with the same type of style as the rest of your objects and records in the community. So it kind of just fills that gap for them since they don't have topics.
So are you saying that you build rules to associate topics with specific knowledge categories? Is that what you're doing? Okay.
We'll get into this part a little bit later, but
Okay.
This is where you're able to go in. You can actually create rules based on it being this type of community. If it has this data category, then add this topic to it. And so, for example, I have Salesforce set up to automatically add the Salesforce topic, because they can't see data categories in the community. So every time I use the Salesforce data category, the Salesforce topic is added so people can see it.
Okay. All right. See, now that's starting to make sense. Thank you.
Your dashboards. There is a reports and dashboards package that you can install into your org. They talk about it all over on here for where to install it, but I already have it installed. So it's not going to tell me to. And this is where you can see, you can see the reports and the dashboards related to self-service, the active discussions in your org, what topics are being used frequently, who the members are in the community, who's being an active member, and all sorts of things like that. We'll go over each one of those reports after we get our community set up so that you guys can actually see some data in it.
Cool.
CMS Connect is pretty new. This came out in the spring release. Spring or summer? Spring. It was spring. And with the CMS Connect, you were able to connect to your content management system, CMS, and you were only originally able to bring over your JavaScript, your CSS, and your things like HTML banners. They're working on expanding this so that you can start bringing over files as well. The original implementation was done to connect to Adobe AEM, but there are options for you to go in there and do custom to connect to other systems. Right now, there's another option when you go into create. So you can go here, you can do, look at that.
WordPress, that's new. It's they added WordPress and Sitecore, both of them. The systems that I have.
Drupal and
Drupal
STL have been added too. Yeah. So it looks like we have 4 new options coming in winter with Drupal, WordPress, STL, and Sitecore. And then this is just how you would connect to it. Again, this is for your CSS, your scripts, and then like your actual HTML and artifacts. So, this is not a way to connect your files yet. But it will be in the future. That is the plan. And then here you have administration. We're actually going to go into this one. So this is where you actually go through and set up a number of things related to your community. This is where you're going to set up your preferences. Do you want to gather Community 360 data on your clients? Do you want people to be able to upvote and downvote on ideas? This is also where you're going to determine which people have access. Out of the box, it's System Administrator. You're going to end up creating a custom profile for your community users. You can't customize the standard one, so you're going to clone it and create and then customize that clone to match up with the objects that you have in your community in the different system preferences that you want people to have. For your internal users, if you do not have every single user joining your community, you can have it so if everyone in a profile is for sure going to be a community member, go right on ahead and give them community access at that profile level. But one thing that I'm really big on is when you have a community, you want to have a community manager. And this manager can wear multiple hats. Salesforce talks about having your admin, your community manager, and your community moderator all work together. Most people don't need to have a full-time community monitor or even a part-time community monitor. Your community manager can be responsible for that. And the types of things that community managers do is they're the ones that are going in and setting the topics. They're deciding what are the different, featured topics that we want to have. There's also a thing called navigational topics. and they can add navigational topics. We'll take a look at those in Builder. They're also in charge. I like to say that they're in charge of those moderation rules as well, and making sure that, things that are flagged are getting checked, making sure that new members are being properly created. I really think that the community manager can do a great job at doing all of that. If you're working on a really big enterprise scale and you're having the level of having thousands of users where you're having tons of posts going on, in that type of situation, yeah, there's a need for a community moderator. When you have a lot of people posting, there's a lot of stuff that could get flagged. There need to be checked. And depending on the type of security your company has, you may have more or less rules about that. But your community manager is really the one that's making sure that your community has the information that it needs and that your people are being taken care of that use the community. And you can do that, I recommend, with a permission set. There's no reason to create a profile for this person. Create a community manager permission set. If you have a couple other people that don't need to be in charge of topics, but you want help with that moderation, create a community moderator permission set. When I was working on large-scale community implementations, I created a community admin permission set, a community moderator permission set, and a community manager permission set. Your community admin may not be the same person that's your Salesforce admin. So I'm going to jump over into Builder here, and we're going to take a look at why that is. So you have the option to turn on in permissions, if somebody should just have access to those community workspaces, or if they should also have access to the community builder. Your community builder is where the actual setting up of pages happens. This is where you're going to do all your community configuration outside of specific. Yeah, you'll do all your community configuration in here. When building a community, build it in the sandbox. You have so much data you're touching, and you need to have certain things in place and play around with things. There is no reason to build a community in production. Salesforce gives everybody sandboxes. Use your sandbox. And then when it comes to migrating communities, you can migrate communities, and there are multiple ways to do that. So don't think you have to go and rebuild all of this again in production. You can actually move your community from the sandbox to production.
Oh.
It's great. And then, by keeping your sandbox community, your production community in sync, that way, when you do have somebody that makes an update in the sandbox, they're not going to overwrite all your production stuff with data that hasn't been updated with the changes that were made directly in production. Which is always the worst. So make sure everybody is working in the same environment, on the same community, and they're deploying together, and people aren't making those one-off changes in production. And then when taking a look, so this is, I'm actually going to pass this over to you, Randy, so we can take a look at an empty community.
Right.
So if you want to press the share screen button. Oh, and Daniel, I will be adding to that list. Just you wait. And so this is a standard community out of the box. We do have some components on here. So if you want to click on the search bar really quick. So this is your search. This is an out of the box component that is not available in the build your own community template. So good to know that you can't have the global search and peer-to-peer community search with that one. You have to build a custom search.
Nice.
Yeah. If you want to click on the dark gray bar right below that. So this is your navigation menu. And if you can click over in the white box where it says navigation menu, the button at the bottom, there we go. So this is what actually happens in your navigation. Like I said, you can move your navigation around. If you use a custom theme, you can make it appear differently. You have to click add. Home is the one you can't move. So if you want to enter, like for this one, cases, for the new menu item, type in cases. And then instead of community page, switch it to Salesforce object. And then switch this to say case. And then you can select which case view you want to have on here. I would go with my cases. And then let's add another navigational menu. I wouldn't make it publicly available because usually if you have cases, that means you're a user in the org. So you should be assigned to a group. And let's add groups to this. Speaking of groups, when I meant to say username. So here we'll go to groups, and instead of community page, again, switch it to Salesforce object. And let's do groups. And here we would go to active groups. And make this one publicly available. So one thing that's really cool about Winner 18 is the fact that you can now build an entirely external community without having to have community licenses. As long as people aren't logging in, you can build the whole shebang and have it available to them.
Wow.
And one thing that's cool, and even on the communities, you know, where it's not just solely external facing, where you actually have logins. One thing that's great about having groups as a public item is it's going to make people that navigate to your community, it's going to give them something to take a look at. And they're going to start seeing that there are actually people in here and they're talking about stuff. And they're going to be, if you have self-registration, they're going to be more likely to register, you know? And also when people log in, groups is a very common place to go. I know when I log into the success community, the first thing I do is I check my groups. Like, I skip the feed because I can't follow that success community feed. Like, I don't even know where it comes from. But in my groups, I know what those all are. You know, there's so many things I've signed up for, so many things I'm following, so many people I'm following, that my feed has just become junk. But I know my group feeds are good. I know when I go to the Seattle Women in Tech user group that, like, that's going to be all my stuff. And I know when I go to the, the Salesforce Technical Architect Success Group, which is a lovely giant name for a group, I know that that's what all those posts are going to be. And so, you know, seeing as that's something that people that have logged in, that's the first thing that they go to. Having it on your navigation, totally a primo spot for it. And let's add one more item. Let's add, I like to add messages. And so I believe, we have to actually, we can't add messages yet. Cancel this one. We have to press the publish button first. So if you just want to close, but we can hit save menu for the rest of them. Awesome.
Yep.
And hit the delete button. Perfect. Yep. And now hit save. There we go. Awesome. And so now, as you can see, you've added the cases and the groups to that navigational bar.
Oh, look at that.
Right below that, we have another component, the one that says welcome. So this is a headline, and you can customize this to say whatever you want. They're available on any page within the Napili template and Partner Central template. It is not available in the Build Your Own template. Lovely thing I learned this morning when I was trying to build my own. And then for these, what's great is you don't actually have to hit save. They just update automatically. So you can just go over, and if you want to click on where it says featured, so this is the featured topics and feeds component. And what it does, it gives you a tab for any posts that are about your featured topics. We'll set those after we get our community published. The next tab is discussions. And so this will be the discussions that are in the community. Following tab is my feed. This is the feed that is directly related to the topics that you are following. You cannot follow people yet in communities. You can follow records, but it's the items that you have actually chosen to follow. And then,
can't we follow people in the success community?
Yes, you can. They're using a custom setup. That's their own thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They made that long before they made Napili.
Nice.
The next component over that you have is the Ask a Question. This is a really fabulous out-of-the-box component. It gives you a pop-up modal to fill in the information. When you ask a question, you're required to have a navigational topic associated with that. Think about that when you're making your navigational topics. Every question has to be associated with a navigational topic, not just a topic, but navigational. And so, and that's also those same topics that are going to show in that drop down in the navigation bar that says topics. So it's one of those things where you need it to be appropriate for the navigation bar, but you also need it to be appropriate for the questions that you're asking too.
Our navigational topics are different than topics which are different from categories.
Right. So we were specifically talking about data categories before. And data categories are assigned to just knowledge articles. and they're only visible in Salesforce. Your topics are broken into 3 different kinds of topics. You have your navigational topic, which is available in the navigation bar and then must be added when you do a question. You have your featured topics, which you're also able to determine in the setup area. Navigational topics, you really don't want to have more than like 5. Like any more than 5 and it's starting to get messy. Featured topics, that's one where, I would say you can have 3 or 6. The way that the component works for featured topics is in a row of 3 squares. So I would definitely keep it at a multiple of 3, but not to go to 9. Otherwise, what they do is they just leave those other places where there would be a square blank and it looks all weird.
Oh.
And it's just, it's not a really good UX. It's just,
absolutely.
yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
So now that we've taken a look at the homepage, I really quick want to jump over to where the paintbrush is, Randy, on the left-hand side. Yep, if you want to click on that. So this is where you set your branding. All these colors that you're seeing in the community are determined based on right here. You can easily set them and change them right in the community builder. So if you want to pick a couple of cool colors, that'll be your text color. And then we'll just go through it and let you pick colors. There we go. That's looking good. That's okay.
Is that how your Napster looked, or?
Oh man. So I actually have a community that's all sorts of different shades of pink, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Like I have experimented with the branding colors like crazy. Careful with that page background color. So the page background color is a new item for you to be able to select. Previously, it was always the same. Yep.
So when you're collaborating with a web designer on this, you basically bring them in here and you say, like, these are all the tools you have available, and then let them put together some sort of wireframe, or like, how does a collaboration with a web designer on this look like?
Yeah. I've never worked with a web designer on a community. Never. Even on custom themes. Now, I have done wireframes for custom themes where once we determine what it is that the customer wants, they'll sketch out what the actual community can look like. Yeah. But really when it comes to the community builder, by then you're doing your wireframes within the template because they're not doing a custom theme. So it's easy enough to just drag and drop stuff onto the page and do it live with the customer once you have that initial setup done. Otherwise, you have the option of, if you are working with like a front-end designer or web developer, usually they do those initial wireframes and then we build the community around what those wireframes are, specifically with a front-end designer to do the custom theme to make it look like that. Okay. But the way that we actually get the colors, just so you guys know, if you're working in consulting and you're building a community for your customer, just ask them for their branding folder.
They exactly copied Randy's theme.
She's a little bit more pink in the background, not gonna lie. But I totally see it.
Congrats to the consultant who did that.
Nice.
That's really amazing.
Hey, Megan,
yeah.
If you're connected to your CMS, would it import these kind of settings here?
So in some places, yes, it can. Please note the in some places. There's an actual component that is called CMS Connect that you're able to drag and drop onto the screen. And actually, I'm going to steal presenter from you. So going to my Staley community. And actually, let's add this component on here so you can see what it does. Here's the CMS Connect for HTML. And if we drag and drop that into the top header, so here's what you do. If you actually had those sources set up, you would just select what the source is and enter your component path into the actual component. It's messy to maintain right now, just to be able to have to do this on every component you use. But yes, you can import your HTML into your community with the CMS component.
And what does a component path look like?
I'm sorry, what does what?
The component path, what does that look like? Is
So
it
that's
like
going to be that's going to be the URL for your CMS system. And this, I would definitely, if you're doing a CMS Connect integration, I would definitely work with whoever the manager is of your CMS system, because there's going to be a lot of URLs you're going to need to know and a lot of different paths. Because you're going to need to know each one of those, what is each script? What is each piece of CSS? What is all the HTML you want to bring over? You're going to have to know each one of those.
And documentation isn't really good. So
yeah.
Documentation is just all the way like every feature that nobody uses. So they just put in some 4 blank pages and say that's the documentation for CMS Connect, and fill out yourself.
It's pretty much just work with your other people, because we made a component. Now you go figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to avoid working with those people because we had such a hard time working with them to set up the WordPress site.
Yeah. For all that stuff from WordPress, you're going to need to get that information either from your whoever manages your CMS.
Okay.
And like I said, it's component by component, path by path. So it's a lot of work to actually use that pre-existing information right now. Really quick, a little bit about these locations on the page. Delete that. Oh my gosh, why won't that go away? So up here, if I'm going to actually move this down to here so you can see the name of it. At the very top, why aren't you moving? You have the template header. And so this template header is on every page, and it's going to be consistent throughout. So if you add a component here, it's going to move it. Yeah. If you add a component up here to the header top, that's going to show up on all the pages. Okay. If you add a component to the header bottom, same thing. The changes that you make in the content section in the actual body of your page, so from the template header bottom all the way down to your template footer, these items are going to be for that page specifically. Anything you add to the template footer is going to be seen on all pages in the community. It's a really great place to add a actual footer component. So let's say you have your footer navigation, and then to actually have your link, like this is our copyright, and then www.copyright.com, and having that information in the footer and stored within a single component. If it needs to be on every page, this is a great way to take advantage of that and to make sure that you don't have to do that work on every single page to update it. Because it can get to be a huge pain as you add more and more pages to your community. Out of the box, your community is already going to have some pages. If you click up here in where it says home, you'll notice that you have this template pages. And here are a number of custom pages, your home page, article detail, that's the knowledge article record page, contact support, so form to contact support and create a case. Create record is a generic page that adapts based on the object that you're on when you create the new button for you to create a record. It's just an edit page. Error is the same error that's used everywhere but login pages. Your feed detail is an individual chatter post. Your messages are direct messages. Question detail is the individual question post. Search is your search results page. Top articles is a list of articles that are I don't know if it's the most viewed or the most popularly voted. I'll have to double check on that. Your topic catalog is the page that shows all of those topics that you have been using in your community so that you can click on those and see the records associated with them. Topic detail, that would be that individual topic. You have the option to add the topic description below it if you add one, and then to add the list below it of records that are related to that topic. User settings, that's where you go in to change your email address, your phone number, and then decide what you want to have visible. Under object pages, some of these come out of the box, like case and dashboard, groups, reports, and then user. The rest of the objects you'll need to add yourself. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Your record detail and record list and record related list pages. These are generic pages, just in case somebody opens an object that you do not have a customized page for in your community. This will be the generic page layout. And then you have your login pages, which include the check password, forgot password, your login error page, and register. Like I said, there's only one, only the login pages don't use the standard error page. And if you want to add a new object, so let's say you're working in your community and you want to add any object you can think of to the community, you just click the new page button. And here you have the option of going standard or going with an object page. Standard just gives you a single page and you choose the page layout. Object pages, they're going to give you the object detail, the list page, and the related list pages that are for that object. So you get all three of them in one. If you're adding an object, add the object page. There's no reason not to. It's just so much easier than sitting there and struggling with creating those pages on your own. And so, well, I guess if you do not plan to use the out-of-the-box pages for that object, I could see why you wouldn't add it. But as long as you plan on using the object in your community, so 99.9% of the time, it's a great thing to do. If you guys want to add any object, I'm going to add campaigns to my community. And here you can see it's going to create my detail page, my list page, and my related list page. I don't need to see this screen again because that's all it tells me. And now when I go over, once it's finished setting up, over here on the sidebar, you'll notice I now have my campaign pages in here. And I can see my campaigns. And so this is what your standard page looks like in a community. They always default to using the single column full width page. I hate that. I think it's ridiculous. I think it should default to the 2 columns with the right sidebar like every other page in the world does.
Oh, how did you get there?
So what I did is I just clicked on this campaign detail, and then I clicked on the bars next to it. So if you open your, stay on the same page and just click on the name up at the top and then click those 3 dots. Do you want me to pass you your screen?
Sure.
Go for it. Awesome. All right. So, nope, not that one. Click on that one where you have opportunity detail. And then, so click on where it says change over on the side. In the second panel, you're already in the left panel, go to the right panel. Nope. Stay on the same tab. And you see where it says change just below the layout section after the third gray bar? Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, okay. So this is like lightning pages.
So this is where you have your page layouts. I'm going to steal presenter back for you just so a couple extra things I have in my org. So here you have your page layouts that you can select from. You know, you have your current layout flagged. One thing that you can do is you can actually create custom pages and custom page layouts if you have a different layout you want to use than what's out of the box. It's usually not necessary. There are instances in which it is, and you can do that with custom development. Like I said, I like the 2 columns with the 2-to-1 ratio, so that's what I'm going to pick here. And then you'll notice what it does is it's going to take everything that was in the body of that, and it's going to smush it just into the one side. And then it's going to open up the sidebar. I usually drag my record banner to the content header so that it goes nice and all the way across. And then I remove this record information tabs. And I actually go and I add if it's tabs, I want to add the tabs component. What was going on before is I still had that space on the side for chatter that if it was full width would have been in the sidebar. But because it became just the 2 instead of the 3, you know, it just looked funky. And I had a weird gap on the side. So I just do it manually and I add the tabs and I'll go detail. And then I'll do related. Just like it is in Salesforce to keep it nice and simple. And then here's where I'm going to go to to add the component to this. You have a record detail component. Very simple, very generic. When I go back over to the detail, I just drag and drop it in there. And that is going to show the actual page layout for whatever record type this record is in the community that's visible to that user's profile. And if I want to go to the related, I can go in here and do related lists, and it comes up with record related list. And you can add that into the related list area, and it'll show all of the related lists that are on that page layout for that record type for that assigned user. What do I do with the sidebar, you ask? Excellent question. So this is where I like to put the chatter. And it's actually called feed. So you put in your feed publisher, and then you can add your actual feed component below it. And then I do not have group or record. Yes, okay. And actually don't have it configured for campaigns. Awesome. So I'm going to just do this as my community feed, our community discussion for an example. And it won't even let me do that. What about my feed? Oh, how funky. The feed component doesn't work now. Awesome. That's really cool. I'm going to make a note. Sorry, I'm going to make a note of that to myself. Feed component. Awesome. I'll find out why that isn't working, but what it would look like if it did work is if we check out my homepage, I have the feed component on here. And as you can see, this is what the feed would look like. You'd have your little post for your feed publisher, and then this is just your standard feed component. And this way you're able to see, what are the discussions going on with that record, just like you do inside Salesforce when you look at a record detail page. If you do not have records created in your org for that object, you're going to show up with errors on your page, Randy. I probably should have told you about that in advance. So if you add an object and you don't have any records, you'll want to go in and create a record so that you can actually see how that page layout works. And so another example is if I take a look at the case detail, DevWorks come with your actual cases for fake cases created already. So here you can see I have the record detail. I again went to my 2-in-1 setup where I have my related here, and then I have my feed publisher and my actual feed listed below the publisher. And then again, I put my record banner at the top so it goes all the way across. I just think it's a better look. And then to go into a couple of weird things, one thing you'll notice is that ideas are very big in the success community. Ideas are super cool because they actually mean that we get to have a say in products. Ideas are not available in any of the standard record components. If you want to use ideas in your community, you have to use custom components. Yeah, which is a really fun one for even the record detail and the record list. Those just aren't available out of the box to use with the standard components. Just really quick to give you kind of a look at how that works with what is available. I'm going to switch to the record detail page for the generic record detail. And, this is it's a shared object page. It varies based on the object. And this one isn't doing it. Usually when you drag it onto the page, when I was playing with this one earlier on my record detail page, it had the page name listed. Oh, it was for the list component. That's why. I should be looking at the list. And let's go to record list. So these are different page variations. It always comes with the object that you add and then a record list. This is just the out of the box one. But here it'll say page name on all of the shared pages. So one thing you'll notice is you have your custom objects available just fine, and you have the majority of your standard objects. You just don't have ideas, knowledge, or users. They have specific components for users. They have specific components for knowledge. They just don't have anything for ideas. And so you have the option to have your related, when you show a list view, you can have it be full, or you can switch it to standard. This is going to prevent people from being able to search them or to sort them. It comes in handy if there's a set group of records that you want to display and you want people to look at them in a certain way. And that way you're able to just add that and have it set up that way. And, I've seen it done on communities, especially when using, smaller lists, not for like a whole record list page, but if you want to have something in the sidebar, then it's a really nice way to go with the full or the compact or standard look for that. An example of that is here on this page. And you can see that I have the 7 Summits news list that's not loading right now because it's lightning. Let's look at preview. I hate when stuff just doesn't load and everything else around it is loading.
I get that in lightning pages sometimes, just randomly.
It happens all the time in lightning pages. All the time in lightning pages, in my opinion.
It wouldn't load my health check yesterday when I was it wouldn't reload my health check when I was doing Trailhead yesterday.
Yeah. It's just lightning does that, and it does it inside the builder more often than it does in the actual Salesforce community. The community is going to be far less likely to see that, but in the builder, I don't know what it is about how they designed it, but a lot of times your components just won't show. And so one way to find out what's on your page is see where they have the little 3, the bullet point symbol. This will actually walk you through each section of your page and what's in that section so that you can find out, what is it that's on my sidebar that's causing that gap. Oh, I have news posted by, followed by news posted by, then a flow, and then the news list. And, you can also go through and you can decide what do you want to do with this. You can click on it and here you can debug. Or you can click on it and be like, I don't want this news list anymore. Even though I can't see it, I want to remove it so that I can go back and add it back in. And then go to lists and do record list, drag and drop. And then here I can switch this to I want to do the compact and I only want to do 3. And here now you can see that, it's a really nice way to be able to add a component into different places without having those different column headers on the top to make it so people have all those weird functionality, because that wouldn't fit. It would just look weird.
That's what Salesforce does when you do a search in the global search box, right? It comes up with like 3 answers, a handful of groups, like 3 group suggestions.
So you get to set that.
Yeah.
You get to decide, how many autocomplete results do I want to have? And then you can go through and set what those objects are. So this one, let's say I want this one to be the 7S news object. Actually, I'm going to just delete that because I had knowledge on it. I'm going to do 7S news for this one. And then I'm going to add groups. And then I'll add, in addition, users. Or topics. Let's do topics because users isn't available. I think they're called members. But now that I have that in there, to make this show up in the community where I'm doing my testing, you have to press this publish button. Once you press publish, this is going to give you access to all of the updates that you've made. Keep in mind, if you press publish in production, that is publishing to all of your community users. Another great reason to test in the sandbox, especially if you have people that are live in your community. When you make an update to your navigation, you'll notice that this asks Randy to save right away. So if you make an update to your navigation bar, that update will happen immediately without publishing your community. So if you hit publish, this is just published and gone live. So just be aware of that when you're making updates. And so here, if I go in, I'm going to type in Snaily now. You'll notice that I'm getting all of these options back. We have the knowledge articles about Snaily. We have additional comments and posts about Snaily. And just when you do the search then, this is the search page I was mentioning before. So here you're able to see, what each of these items are. One thing that you'll notice is this page looks very different than my other pages. That is because I actually have the search page set up with a custom theme that I was messing around with that is not yet completed. And so I'm going to show you where that's done. So right here, you'll see that I have this set as peak wide for the theme layout. Out of the box, you just have home, inner, and login. If I switch this back to inner, it's going to go back to looking like all of the other pages with the header. You're able to go through and you can decide what theme should be, or what pages your theme should be applied to. And you can go back and forth between having, this lovely, beautiful, snaily picture or having what will eventually be a really cool picture of penguins. So yes, you're able to, I got a thing for baby animals, not gonna lie. You're also able to customize what shows up in this search thing. So if you don't want to have knowledge showing up, instead you want to have this be your, let's say I want to add leads, you can totally add that, and you can remove certain items from being public. So for example, I don't want people to be public. I don't want people to be able to see, unauthenticated users to be able to see who's logging in. And so by actually going through and having sorry, somebody is making a ton of noise. Dude. It's all weird. Okay, now it's good. Oh. It's not, okay, that was weird. All right, hilarious. All right.
Actually, I think it might be your microphone because I can see the little green microphone going up.
Oh, okay. I'll just.
Sorry.
Good catch. There we go. I thought it was my microphone at first, so we're good. So yeah, and so you're able to switch here any objects. You don't have to add these objects to the community to make them available in the global search results, because you have that out-of-the-box record page that's that generic page. If you add these these generic record pages here, so long as you add it, if they find a record that matches their search criteria, and it'll just take them to the record detail page, the generic page. It's not going to be something you customize. Beware, like I said, a lot of those are ugly. So if you're going to be adding an object to your search, you should add the object to the community so you can make a beautiful page and have a wonderful experience for your customers.
So Megan, can I clarify what?
Yeah.
I want to practice my active listening if I can.
Okay.
All right. So if I heard you correctly, what you just said was, let's say someone does a search and an opportunity matches that search criteria. If the opportunity object is not added to the template or added to your communities, what they will see is this generic record detail page.
Right. And keep in mind, they do need to have access to that opportunity via their profile for access to the object. They're still going to follow the same role hierarchy and sharing rules that are in Salesforce. They're not going to be able to see something that they don't have permissions to see.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind, if you gave them access to opportunities on their profile, but didn't add opportunities to the community, they can still find opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It just brings them to that generic, ugly-looking record detail page.
Yeah, it just takes them to the ugly page. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and that's something that you should definitely keep in mind. I once got an emergency call to a customer because they just exposed some objects on the navigation, but they forgot to set all the other objects to private or hide access to the object altogether.
Yeah.
So they exposed discussions on the pricing for another customer by giving their user access to the internal users chatter feed. So there was like they were mentioning the customer, like, would you give the same price for company A? And they tagged company A, and by that the members of company A saw what they were telling each other about the price that they make for company A and company B, and oh no, company A isn't a good fit for us, so keep that price at 10% discount, and we can make 25 for company B. You should be really, really careful if you roll out a community to have everything on private access to the record, external sharing, or lock access to the object altogether.
For
It's
sure.
something you can really, really hit yourself in the foot, and that's really dangerous. And you don't want to see the faces of people who just did that and ask you for help for that. That's not nice. Really.
There's a reason that this says, the name of your org or all with access. Because if you end up selecting all with access, and if you have people that are using that to post on records, that's going to show up to everyone in the community.
Yeah.
And also, whenever you have, items, you know how you can do a post when certain things happen, like, oh, add a chatter post when so-and-so approves it. Oh, add a chatter post whenever this field is updated. Oh, add a chatter post every time we touch the status. Yeah, it drives me crazy, first of all, that people do that. Second of all, that's all available in the community. Every time there's one of those generic feed posts, they see that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're chilling up in Sneely and you go to something that needs to have, like, an approval, it's going to show up on your actual list of stuff. Like, it's so crazy. And it's a huge mess. Like, it looks hideous. Okay, well, ideas was a bad example. Let's go to cases. And then, so this is one thing that I always do for community is I always do my open submitted cases. And this is a list view that uses a custom field to determine if the current user's contact ID matches the contact on the case. And if so, the list view has the criteria of my request equals true. It's just a Boolean formula field. And that way I can make my own custom list views on what they submitted. For what's open, for what's not open.
Megan, do you create those in Salesforce first and then they populate over in communities, or are these community-specific list views?
You make them in Salesforce first and then make sure that you give permissions to just if you're using cases internally, it can work for everybody. But if it's for your community users, just make sure you give access to the view to just the community users. And if we click into one of these cases, so like here you can, so you'll see that everything that I have been saying on this case is like showing up in the chatter feed. Here's where I attached an article. Here is where I wrote a post. So just keep in mind that all that stuff is going to show to your community users when they're logged in there if you select all with access. It's really quite crazy, and it's a huge pain. But I would like to see where you are at, Randy, with your community, and Ashley as well, and see what we can do to get you guys set up and running.
Ashley, why don't you take it? It's your turn. Oh, you're on mute.
I have not been playing along. I've been raptured by Megan's explanation here.
I know, Megan, you were a beast. You were like, click, 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 click. That I was like, wow, do you do website development in your pseudo spare time?
I play with my Sneely community in my free time whenever I have a presentation coming up. No, honestly, like one thing that I've been doing is I've really been spending my time trying to figure out what's in these new templates and to get an idea of what's out there. Because, like I said, I found out today so much is not available in Build Your Own. So much. And I've done the same with Partner Central. And there's also a template that's on the App Exchange. It's called Partner Management. It has everything that Nabili has. And it automatically comes with leads and opportunities. Yet Salesforce went forward with Partner Central as their partner app. Like, I didn't understand it. It drove me crazy. But yeah. So,
look at who knows their hexadecimal colors.
She's good. She's good. All right.
We're in template in HubSpot this summer, so.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I have learned while working with communities is how like freaking crazy these marketing people are when it comes to their their marketing packages and the way their images must look and how many, pixels that freaking header image must be. You are held by the limits of the images they give you. I cannot make your crappy image look like it has like really good quality. I am not, a ninja like that.
But they do it on NCIS all the time. They just enhance the picture.
Oh, yeah, just like you can zoom in on those fuzzy, garage parking lot cameras and get the perfect view of somebody's ID. So really, the cool stuff is actually in the lightning bolt. That's where you're going to find all your components. And this is where you can start having some fun. And I mean, that's kind of like the main overview of communities until we actually get into the point of like building individual objects and pages out. I don't know how much time you guys have.
I think it's going to be up to you, Megan.
Yeah.
Sweet. I can stay on still. Yeah, my meeting after this was with Megan, and she actually she rescheduled on me last night. So perfect.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't have anything in this org, so it's like this has nothing.
So I'll give you a walkthrough of just what some of those components are once they have stuff in them. Because I've got a bunch of them that I've been playing with. So I'm going to jump back over. This is not the right screen. So here I am in my community builder, and I'm going to go to my my custom pages because this is where I really have cool stuff. So Calendar is a cool app I installed that's free on the App Exchange. I'm just going to show it, and it's not even on the page yet. Awesome. So this is a create page. When you use the create component, this one is for ideas. Obviously, it's not the same as, it's an object that doesn't exist, but this is what the create page looks like. You can also go in, and I have a custom knowledge page that I created. And on here, I've got a few different components I added. So this is the topic catalog component. Yes. This is your trending articles by topic. And so this is just set to the topic ID of the page if it was going on. Here on I'm going to switch back over to my home page. My homepage has additional custom components. Everybody has that feed, discussions, and featured. So this is what your featured topics look like. You can actually add images to those in the content targeting section when you create each topic. And so your featured topics get square images. Your navigational topics get rectangular banner images. And that's because they show up on your topic page, if you choose so, as the banner across the top of the page. And if we go to preview, so you can actually click on these, here's where you can see the discussions. This is out of the box. You can't change this. It's either latest post, most recent activity, or top questions. And then you have my feed. I don't like this component particularly. I think that it's kind of a waste of space, seeing as I could just add an actual feed component so that I could do a post and not just read the feed. Here's a question where, like I said, you do have to, this is asking a question here. If we ask a question with the ask a question button, this is where we have to pick that navigational topic. And so, why baby sloths? And then if you go into details, you can add additional topics and you can do your formatting. But that's all details does. And then it'll post that question. Again, this is that feed detail page, or this is the question detail page because it's not a feed, it's a question. You can like it. People can answer questions. And you can do, because they are awesome. And you answer. Then you also, I mentioned direct messages. There is a message component that works with direct messaging. And here you're able to message back and forth with individual people. You can create a new message to message them, just like you do on Facebook. And then I love that I keep getting this error for a component that's not on this page.
It's the live agent component, isn't it, down at the bottom?
Well, live agent is turned off right now. Huh. Oh, we'll find out next time it comes up. Then we have the recent messages component. You also have the leaderboard. The leaderboard is pretty cool because you're actually able to configure what you want to show. Do you want this to be by the topic that they're most knowledgeable about and the points they have towards that topic? Or to show the topics they're knowledgeable about and the points they have? Or do you want it to just show their level? That information is actually configured in the setup. You can also do the topic knowledge and last active if you don't want to do points. And so that is, and then here at the bottom, this comes at the bottom of pages. You may or may not want it. If you are using cases with your community, I say go for it. If you're not using cases, make sure to get rid of it. Contact support takes them to a form to create a case. And then just going through the other components, most of them are pretty straightforward. Your tabs works just like in Lightning App Builder. Your rich content editor just gives you a place to type in text and do formatting, as well as insert images and links. Your recommendations carousel uses the recommendations in the community workspace, and we're going to get to that section next. Then you also have your information about feeds, where you can follow, where you can create a stream listed stream detail now, apparently with Winter. You have your files list and your libraries. Keeping in mind, you can have things that are in your chatter files that are connected to your actual content libraries. It's a great way to display just like one specific set of information. Libraries is new. You have your group engagement. So these are actually reports that you can put onto the group pages that your group manager is only able to see, so that they can see how well their group is doing. Here you have your groups components. These are all related to chatter groups. You can have an announcement section, manage members, again, only available to the person that owns the group. And then you have your group related detail banner and the actual, I don't know what group itself is. I think that's the group I thought that was group detail. Let's find out. See what it says. Sorry, I'm curious. I can't not pull it on the screen to find out. And it says, oh yeah, so this would actually be this is the full page group component that they put on there when they do that stupid single column. As you can see, under groups, on the group detail, I have again modified groups to use the 2-column layout. They set up the single page component to look like the 2-column, so you may as well just set up your own 2-column. In here, I use the group detail component, and right below it, this is the group related list. And that's where you're able to see who the members are. You can choose to add members, files, records, and there's one other one. Shoot, I can't remember it, that you can add to a group related list. It's in the setup. What's available in these related list components is based on what is actually on the record page layout itself. So you can make all of those updates from the record page layout in Classic or Lightning in the setup area. To kind of jump back to the workspaces a bit and to dig into this content targeting. So here's where you have your topics. This is every topic that's in your community. And, there's a lot of information on here. And sometimes you'll realize if somebody had, like baby sloth and baby sloths, you can actually go in and merge topics if you were to type in both of the topic names, and it'll autofill for you. And then you can press what you want to have it merge into. If you have somebody that misspelled cat, somebody that misspelled your company name, it's a nice, easy way to clean that up. These are things your community manager would be in charge of, not your Salesforce admin. This is definitely a community manager job. It's very time consuming, and Salesforce admins would be very bored by it. Next up, you have your navigational topics. These are the ones that are in the drop-down and that you attach to a question when you click that Ask a Question button. When I click on here, you can see that I can upload a banner image, and it gives you the dimensions for that image. And then you can add additional navigational topics if you wanted to. So if I wanted to add Salesforce, I would click Add, and then I click Save. Yes, you have to click Add and Save. Just remember that. Don't just click Add after you add a bunch of them and then don't hit Save, because it's a pain to go back and re-enter all of them. Been there, done that. So many times. These are the featured topics. When you click on these, this is where you're able to add the image. And again, it tells you the exact size that you need. And you can have a maximum of 25. Again, it shows in that little square component. If you plan on using that featured topic component, just be aware of how many squares you're going to be showing in there. You can't limit it to only be like your first 6 featured topics. It's all your featured topics. So keep that in mind. You don't have to use that component as well. If you want to have more featured topics, not use that component, go for it. Just keep in mind, where are you actually going to be displaying those featured topics then. You'd have to build a custom component. This is article management. This is where you can see all of the knowledge articles that are in the org. So for example, I have this Go Snaily article, and attached to it, I have the Salesforce and Snaily topics. This is done with the automatic topic assignment, which you can enable or you choose not to. Keep in mind when you go in and you add new knowledge articles, you will need to go into the automatic topic assignment and reselect what you are wanting to assign things to, unless they have switched this since the summer release. But if I added a new topic that was, in the Salesforce data category, which you saw was already assigned to the Salesforce topic, once I have a new article, I have to click the add topics to all existing articles in data category and press save to assign that to all of the new articles that I have created.
How do you get the article management?
So article management is in your Salesforce setup, and you have to have knowledge enabled.
Oh.
Yeah. So once you enable knowledge, then you'll be able to have access to it.
And how do you enable knowledge?
So if you go into setup, you should have the option under knowledge settings to enable knowledge.
I'm not seeing it.
Do you want to share your screen and we can walk you through it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Are you on a fresh dev org?
No. I'm in a sandbox.
You have to have a knowledge license to have access to it. Do you have a knowledge license? So you can go to company information and find out. Under set, yeah. And go under company profile. Yep, company information. And then scroll down. You do not have knowledge. So yeah, you're not going to have that one available to you.
Okay.
But even if you're in a fresh dev org, you need to enable yourself as a knowledge user first.
Yeah, you have to make yourself a knowledge user.
Typically, even if you're on a service cloud, you have to enable service cloud and knowledge for your user and a dev org as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't give you anything pre-configured.
Ashley, do you want to take control and enable knowledge?
Sure. So back here.
So what are we enabling knowledge for? Like,
I'm not
just to know how to do it. Randy, if you want me to walk you through enabling knowledge when you have your dev org, I can totally do that with you and get you set up.
Well, because they're connected a lot, right? Especially in the advanced admin exam, communities and knowledge. A lot of those questions are sort of combined or.
There are not very many communities questions on the advanced admin exam at all. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because when I took ADM 201, it was all about communities and chatter.
I took mine a year ago, probably.
I took mine in January for my advanced admin.
And there wasn't any chatter or
nothing on chatter or communities. Same.
The Service Cloud has just had a revamp, and they
did the new one come out for Service Cloud?
Yeah, it is definitely. One of our consultants took it just 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And she was about to write down what she experienced there as compared to my guide for the exam. Yeah, I took the beta of the new Salesforce, the new Service Cloud, and it is so focused on field service lightning and social support. It's all about social customer service, which is crazy because you can't turn that on in a dev org.
No, you can't. Right. That's totally ridiculous.
Well, with console coming to everything, like field service lightning.
You cut out.
Field service lightning is almost the only difference between Service and Sales Cloud licenses now, because console's in Sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, and console's available for custom objects or even custom apps in Lightning. I mean, you can make your own console for whatever.
Yep.
And you can assign your own page layouts to those actual objects within within that app itself. It's pretty cool. I just deployed that to the partial copy on Friday. Sorry. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but field service lightning is still a feature license, so you have to pay extra and you have to pay big for that.
Yeah.
So you can enable field service in your org, and you will have work orders exposed to you, but to get the rest of the objects working, like addresses and locations and whatever. You still need
you can install that in a dev org, but it's not going to work in a real org.
Yeah, right. It will work for 30 days if you have the correct package URLs, so that you can install the package.
Yeah.
So they can let you try for 30 days.
But social customer service, there's no access to.
Absolutely.
No, there isn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How are they? That's ridiculous that they test you on functionality that you can only get if you buy it. And it's not like Marketing Cloud is cheap.
You don't need Marketing Cloud. Social customer service is separate from Marketing Cloud.
Yeah, it's just gives you the Radian 6 login page for signing up for your free 2 accounts login.
Yeah.
And you will never see that login again, and you can never use it again if you go to the Radian 6 homepage and try to log in with your newly created free login. You won't go anywhere. It's just not a login. It just pretends that you use Radian 6 functionality. They're not related whatsoever. It's just the same company that offers you the API access. I tried that because I thought
totally different too. Yeah.
I had the vague idea and the hope that my free Radian 6 account will offer me free access to Radian 6 somewhere.
Right? That would be so cool.
Will be so cool, but all you get is the API for 2 accounts and nothing else. So I took the social studio exam completely blind.
How was that?
It was a beta, so it was the beta exam.
Okay.
So I had to take not just 60, but 320 questions, not to drop out of the beta.
I couldn't believe how much of the service. Yeah, I don't know how you did it. Like I couldn't believe. I mean, I've been working in Service Cloud for like 9 years now, and I have my regular Service Cloud certification, but I wanted to try the new one. Dude, that test was so hard. Like I had no idea what they were talking about on the beta. I mean, just the stuff that they were coming up with, like it was stuff that I had never seen before, that I was never going to be able to go in and play with. And it was all based around social customer service and freaking Lightning field service. But now there's the whole Lightning field service exam. So I wonder if they split some of those questions.
Yeah. Obviously, because I haven't heard my consultant giving any feedback that there was social customer service and field service Lightning in there.
So social customer service is on the actual sheet it's on the sheet too. So that's
okay. So it should be in.
Yeah, and that was the majority of the questions.
Majority, right?
The majority, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Like it was so social based, and there was some stuff in there on communities. The community stuff I did fine on. The chatter stuff, that was fine. The very couple of records that they asked about Lightning, about knowledge. I mean, there couldn't have been more than 5 knowledge questions on my whole beta test. Yeah. And then there was a lot. There couldn't have been more than 5. Like, couldn't have been. Because, like, it was as if knowledge was completely skipped. Like, I was starting to wonder if knowledge was going away in the next couple of releases. They just... Because it had gone from being like an exam about knowledge to really skipping it. And then they also talk a lot about there were a couple of questions about omni-channel, and then a lot of questions about console. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And like and there were weird questions about console, like how do you get a visual force component into the footer? And then you had multiple choice questions. And it was like, whoa, dude, these all sound the same. Like, which one do you need to do to get the visual force component in the footer? So yes, beware.
I'm happy I have this one and won't take it again until they expired.
There you go. Just so you know, this login and registration at the top of the page where it says file. So this is where you actually select the image that goes on your login page. Out of the box, it's going to be a big giant Salesforce cloud. Yeah. And then you can switch it up here.
Yeah.
And then under emails is where you select which image is on your actual chat or emails that are sent to people. For Community Builder, under your login, you'll want to click on the little searchy bar and then select, oh, did you publish yet?
Oh.
You have to press the publish button.
Oh. Right. Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can't leave it blank. I would try hitting save again. There you go. And then go back to your community. And under Builder, go back to the Community Builder. There you go. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you should have a Publish button. And then I know we've already gone, half hour over. We're getting to the point we're doing a lot of socializing. Do you guys want to do a second call after you guys have some time to play around with the communities that you created in your DevWorks?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be fun.
And that way you guys will have a little bit of something to work off of, and we can start going into the differences between those components. And then, Daniel, if you have anything else that you want to share from your experiences, that would be awesome. That would be really, really helpful. Yeah, and just other tips and tricks when it comes to actually building communities.
Oh, this one is so brilliant. Could you please publish this somewhere? And
it's like an Angel Fire page.
It totally does. It looks like an Angel Fire page indeed.